Alt 1.
Deem you didn't win 3 stripes.
Oh, shit. We live?
Yeah,
We
it's
are
good. You can
live.
go live.
It's too late.
Oh, he's got to go get his 3 stripes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, what are you going to do? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We are coming to you live with the second episode here of Layer1Live. Just making sure everything is good.
You tweet that shit?
Whoa, chill.
All right.
Language.
Oh. Damn, my bad.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the second episode of Layer1Live, and we are here. We are ready. We are ready for the blockchain and crypto news. How's everything in Pittsburgh today, fellas?
Beautiful day, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're just talking about how, like, we don't have that many good days left, and today is definitely one of the ones we need to cherish.
Yeah, you're down in Virginia Beach now, so it's if you remember us up here in like a month's time, we'll be freezing our you-know-what's off.
Yeah, I'll remember those days. Oh, my God. All right, so we've got a pretty good episode here today. We're talking all things crypto, all things blockchain. We've got a lot of BTC news, it looks like. Some ETH news. What else do we got? TRON. We got a big move from EOS Knights on TRON. We got some EOSCafeBlock. But other than that, yeah, it should be a good episode.
Yeah, we're always coming to you guys with the latest and greatest news on crypto in general. Obviously, Layer 1 protocols. Yeah, yada. Q loves my intro. I'm gonna do it every single episode. We'll be at like 949. I'll be like, for those who haven't heard of us.
No, I like the intro. Somebody said, "Turn it up, please," which is like, God, this is the second week in a row. All right, we try to turn it up there. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
They want you to turn up or up? we're turning up.
Yeah,
drinking.
They already started.
But anyway, so for those of you who haven't tuned in live, we do this every Monday, sometime in the afternoon, depending on when we get to it. But we also obviously have interviews. So big interview coming this week. We're going to try and get the down low, or at least kind of the latest information from a San Francisco-based TRON team member. So in TRON fashion, we're not going to tell you who it is. We're going to announce it and then obviously pump that out there. So it should be a good one. We know him or her well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. He's a really cool guy.
So now it's a guy. God damn it, Dean.
Oh man,
we're giving out
giving out clues.
Yeah. If you guys can guess who it is, we're not doing any giveaways on this episode, but it's still funny if we can get that to go. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you are here watching the video or watching live, please like, comment, subscribe to this video, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us if we get that engagement from you guys, that YouTube algorithm that no one seems to know how it actually works. But still, we're sounds very quiet. We are still. Someone get on.
Hello.
There. Someone get on there. God.
Let me see. I have headphones, but you can actually pull it up.
Did you turn up your volume on your end, sir?
Is the computer plugged in?
All right, so let's get into the breaking news here. We've already got some time here, and please, Sabby, let me know if the volume is actually working or if it still sounds quiet, because I'm trying to work from my end here and see if it works. But go ahead, Bitfinex, what do we got?
Oh my goodness,
what
another Bitfinex piece of drama here. It's like an ever evolving soap opera for Bitfinex. So. For those who haven't followed along, Bitfinex, there was some giant drama, about $850 million worth of funds that they had in this company called Crypto Capital that they would use as backing to the Tether USDT stablecoin. Supposedly back, many, many moons ago, Crypto Capital was not giving them access to this, but then you saw the New York State Attorney General come out and say, no, there's actually some shady things going on. We're investigating. Bitfinex denied everything, of course. And now the latest is that Bitfinex is kind of going on the attack. They are sending a subpoena to free the frozen $850 million worth within Crypto Capital. Now, of course, on Crypto Capital's side, they are saying they don't have any of it. It was hacked or stolen or whatever.
Classic.
Classic crypto move there. However, Bitfinex says that they can prove it is within banks within, like, I think Spain, the UK, and maybe somewhere in the Caribbean. So that's kind of the latest from Bitfinex. The reason I think it might have any impact on you, I, Deem, everybody listening, right, is that could this, and I'm putting my tinfoil hat on here, conspiracy style.
Oh God,
wise here, but
there we go.
Could this be yet another ploy for Bitfinex and Tether to pump the market? If, let's say, for example, they're behind the scenes, they're working with crypto capital, and this has all been a stunt where, essentially that 850 million is unlocked, and now that it's officially able to be added to the Tether reserves, assuming it's not currently already there, that would allow them to basically print, quote unquote, allow them to print $850 million worth of Tether, which are then obviously going to go and buy Bitcoin and ETH and EOS and everything else with.
I think right now they're like 77% backed for Tether. So I guess maybe that 33% or whatever is left is or 23% or whatever is left is would be 800 million. But that's an interesting point. I mean, the Bitfinex overall has been struggling like crazy with like trading volume. Their trading volume is down like 97% from like where it used to be. So like overall, like these guys are struggling, so they definitely strapped for cash. That's why they're going on an attack now.
I remember trying to get Mike in the fund that we're involved with into the Leo token. So that that has been an interesting downfall of that token. So glad for whatever reason, I don't even remember exactly why we didn't end up going with that. I think it was like like we couldn't acquire the token somehow, but glad that we missed out on that one. Guys, I want you to, if you can, pull up your YouTube apps so that you can follow along with this chat, because we have a couple chatters here, and it works better if you guys see it along with me and not me kind of interrupting whatever you guys got going on. But with Scott, what's up? What's going on? Sabby, thanks for the tips as well. Scott, hopefully the audio sounds good here for you this time. But good to see returning visitors here. And if you have anything you want to talk about, we've got some Lightning stuff too. I know you were asking about it. But yeah, man, Bitfinex consistently in the news. So that's one thing you can say about them. But yeah. Yeah, Dima, what do we got next?
Yeah, so moving along, like, we've heard about countries like exploring their ideas to introduce their own, like, cryptocurrency, basically having like, let's say, US dollar digital version of it, right? So the latest article that came out, it was about Canada. The good old Canadians come out with, with an idea to essentially have this digitalized Canadian dollar to better like track like, habits of certain buyers and and so on, of like people for like tax purposes and things like that. So it's very controversial when you have like a government come out with the digital currency, because it's not obviously the same, because it's actually controlled, that gives control to the state, right? Rather than to the people. Because right now the way it works, right, you go to a bank, right, and the bank gives you access to do banking, right, and you can store your money there, and the banks are regulated and they keep your stuff private, right? Unless, like, let's say the state wants to find out something about you, then they'll go in and probe, right, and get access to your accounts. And then
it seems like you know a lot about this.
Well, let's not get into details, all right? So basically, so right now it's kind of, we have the preservation of like privacy right now with these banking system, even though like the state can access it. But with these digital like dollars that the governments are trying to release, what it's going to do is actually just bypass that, and then you basically going to have like, let's say, like a digital wallet of Canadian dollars that is directly monitored by the government, right? So like transactions of all your spendings everywhere, you like what you spend your money on, it's a huge like privacy issue. And like, obviously, it's like, there's an argument, well, I have nothing to hide,
right?
Why should I be concerned with this? So, but like, obviously, losing that value of privacy is huge if these governments are going to start releasing these digital tokens. It's going to be a huge shift of power from having like the commercial side having the data on your spending, which is regulated and controlled and keeps it private from the state, and switching it to actually having the state look at your transactions and try to make data out of it, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Lauren talk about how with WeChat Pay and Alipay and all these other companies over there in China, how kind of users over there are going to be already exposed to a digital currency, and therefore probably when the Chinese yuan gets digitalized, that'll be pretty normal for them. So let's say you were the head of a country. What's the way that you would approach this cryptocurrency quote unquote threat? Are you starting your own central bank digital currency like Canada here? Are you outright banning it like India? What's the right way forward for these countries?
I would say if you took a stab at it from today, right, with where we are, there's no way that you would be able to convince an entire boardroom that you could ban this and it would, basically be possible to ban it. Kind of the boot on the neck approach only works so well when things are digital. So I would think you probably go the way of a central bank digital currency. But I think one of the key aspects for them to succeed, as we've seen in China with, like you said, WeChat and Alipay, is that I think if the news of central bank digital currencies come with the baggage of, hey, just so you know, like, agree to our terms that we're going to look through all your stuff. If it comes with that, it's going to need to provide enough convenience that people are going to be okay giving away that privacy, right? What is it going to do that the current setup can't do?
What benefits it will offer and why people like it is because it's going to give access to those unbanked people, right? So if you go to a bank and the bank doesn't want to set up an account for you because you're technically high risk, no problem. Just set up this digital wallet that you have here and the state will just watch you, So, so you can see how that, that can be a popular opinion for them to sell this idea to the population.
That also kind of assumes, though, that you can opt out, right? Because I think there's an interesting division between a central bank digital currency where it's like, okay, hey, use this. There's some pros and cons to it, but we still have 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s in cash. You still have your regular credit cards, right? It's like, here's kind of the new wave, right? And they market it like that and all this. Or it's, hey, everything else is gone, right? Like, and by so-and-so date, 2024, all cash is going to be gone. Credit card companies are now moving towards this central bank digital currency. Basically you can opt out for as long as we tell you can. Right. But after that, everything's on this, right? And that is very much a key difference, but we're at a point now. I mean, like, I swear every time I look on the trending news on Twitter, it's like a different country is protesting.
Yeah.
Like, there are issues in Chile now. Lebanon. I mean, I can't remember a time in my, short 28 years that we've ever seen so much upheaval globally, right? I mean, even in major countries like France, they've been protesting for months, if not over a year now. So this is like, I mean, I can't imagine this is not going to all come to a head and either end in, craziness or kind of filter out or whatever. I mean, that's obviously a much longer conversation we could have, but it's going to be wild.
It's a hot topic. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Well, if we were ready to move on, we got another piece of news here. HTC now has an entry-level blockchain phone. So we've seen, phones come out with, certain gadgets and things that are inside them to kind of accommodate this new crypto wave. But so we have this HTC Exodus 1S, which is an entry-level phone that's actually relatively cheap. You can pick it up for like $244 or 219 euros. So that's pretty cheap. And what you can do is actually you can run a Bitcoin node on it, which is what really made the headlines for this. But you have to keep in mind that just with the phone itself, you can't run the node just by having the phone. It has the capability of, you know, doing it basically, but you need some add-ons, like you need an SD card with, you know, with memory.
You got to buy the $400.
Yeah, you know, basically you got to get the attachments for it. But, you know, that kind of gives you the ability to be part of the network and decentralize it by using your phone, basically.
Yeah, that's fair too. And the first thing that at least I saw when I opened up this article is the Exodus 1S is available to order now, but not in the US. So
yeah.
So what's the reasoning behind it not being offered in the US? I know HTC is already not as big over here as say an Apple phone, whereas in countries like Korea, the HTC is like it, right? Samsung's it. But what do you think the reason is behind it not being allowed over here?
Yeah, I think they just focus on the hottest markets first, right? So they see, like, you know, where the hottest market is and where they can capture the most user base. So like HTC overall is like, I would say, you know, they don't have such a huge market share like, you know, Apple, like you know,
Samsung,
Apple phones, you know, Samsung, right? So they're struggling and they're trying to use it to market it to the specific crowd. So that's why they hit specific locations that are, like, have a lot of crypto users, and they would be susceptible to, like, oh great, man, I can get this. It has the node, you know, and like other phones don't have it. So it's their like kind of little niche per se that I think they're trying to target.
What is it? Is it a Huawei phone? Could that be why?
Is it a Huawei? What do you mean?
Huawei, like the Chinese company Huawei, HUAWEI.
Yeah. But what do you, so
like those aren't allowed in the U.S. right now because they're, you know, supposedly tracking people's conversations and stuff. You know this Huawei story, don't you? Or no?
I know that Huawei's been in the news for the sanctions that Trump's trying to work with all that stuff, but I don't know anything about Huawei having, like, this seems to be from HTC, not Huawei.
Yeah, I'm just saying, my point is that I wonder if HTC like is buying the phones from Huawei, right? In the same way that like Apple buys the phone parts from other companies. Because the controversy is that Huawei is very much a you know, Chinese backed company.
Yeah.
So the Chinese government is supposedly spying on, you know, people outside of China and inside of China by using the Huawei
tech.
Yeah. Same with WeChat, Alipay, right? I mean, it's pretty proven, as far as I know, that's happening. So that, you know, I'm just trying to shit on Dima here and tell him why he's
Thanks,
wrong.
Man.
But yeah. Anyway, that's an interesting one. If you're looking for a cheap phone, you know, cheap node, and you're in the US, you're out of luck. Sorry.
Yeah. Dude, it's a great point in the fact that I think it was Lawrence again. I mean, I'm bringing up a lot of what we talked about in our last interview with Lawrence, but he was talking about how the US market is, you know, fresh in the fact that there's a lot of purchasing power with the users, but there's not a lot of offerings to users in the cryptocurrency environment. So it'll be interesting to see when, like, that, you know, red tape is removed, whether the users will come, you know, flooding in and therefore the money. But yeah, that should be interesting, man. We have a story here: Fortnite meets Bitcoin Lightning Network. So Scott, you were talking about the Lightning Network last week. I think there's starting to be a lot more development. Mike, you would call it like a layer 2, correct?
Yeah. So, you know, just as some brief background to answer his question there, I saw a great article that was posted. It looks like earlier this year in the summer, that kind of did a good job of taking all of the press and the info out there about Lightning, which is a ton, and certainly kind of contradictory in a lot of ways is kind of what I saw. So I had trouble figuring out what was right and what was wrong. But we'll link this. We'll throw this in the chat here once I'm done talking about it. But, you know, it basically kind of gave some pros and cons to Lightning. The pros of Lightning, obviously, like you said, it's a layer 2 payment solution that basically allows you to use Bitcoin to pay instantaneously, essentially. I mean, down to like the millisecond level. It's going to beat out traditional payment rails, which is, I think, why everybody's so excited about it. But over the last few months, there's been word about some interesting kind of bugs in the in this layer 2 solution. And then there was something on CoinDesk, you know, actually I think today, that came out talking again about how researchers have kind of uncovered this attack vector for Lightning. So it's brand new. It's got some issues, as of it looks like this past summer, and this is a problem across crypto, but it's just no one's really using it, right? Like the use case hasn't really existed. Well less than 0.1% of total BTC is using Lightning. So I mean, it seems to me kind of like a classic crypto, layer 1, layer 2 solution where it's like, hey, this is here, but until we actually see people use it, it's going to be hard to give it any sort of like real definitive, hey, this is working, or hey, this is great, versus, oh, well, this was kind of a flop.
Yeah, I mean, as always, it'd be great to get like somebody from. There's a couple companies that or teams that are working specifically on building on the Lightning Network. So I see here, Eclair, C Lightning, and Lightning Labs. It would be great to like actually have those guys come on and explain what's going on within that layer 2 and what they're doing, building on the Lightning Network. That would be great. I think we're trying to get Pete at Liquid Apps as well. So all these kind of like layer 2 actions that are happening within blockchain, that would be great to get those guys on to really get an in-depth dive, because I feel like we're kind of viewing it like from an outsider's perspective in the way that we're kind of just like, we kind of get the news as it comes in, obviously, but like to be, on the front lines in the trenches with this stuff is like a whole different deal.
Yeah. We need a layer 2 podcast.
That would be great.
Man.
Yeah.
But what's the Fortnite stuff though?
Yeah.
Lightnite.
Yeah, Lightnite. So this comes from Satoshi Labs, and I don't know if they're like specifically building on are exactly the team we're talking about, where they're building on the Lightning Network layer 2. But basically, everybody knows about these battle royale games, and I'm gonna throw up, if you guys want to watch it as well, I'm gonna throw up the YouTube video. So this comes directly from that Satoshi Labs Twitter, but I'm gonna throw it up. We can all watch it together here. I'll stop talking. All right, so it says we've been working silently. I don't know if you guys want to watch this.
Yeah, we're watching.
Dun dun.
I think I might be a little bit ahead of you guys.
Yeah.
Why is it silent though?
We're not gonna.
Or is it? Oh yeah, that's right. Technology. This is gonna be so sick, dude.
They got definitely the tunes are on point.
It kind of looks like what's that game?
H1Z1. No. Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a Minecraft action to it.
Skins, bro.
Oh, they got their own wallet.
Yeah, skins get you wins.
Can I import my CryptoKitties?
No, you can't. You can play as a CryptoKitty. How dope would that be?
Oh man.
Oh, dude.
There's definitely gonna be a skin action there. Oh my god. All right. So, anyways, that's Lightnite, guys. I know that was our first attempt at watching a video on the Layer1Live, but let us know what you thought about that. But Lightnite IO essentially is gonna be like this battle royale game, as you just saw. And it's going to have Lightning Network payments with Bitcoin. So there's going to be a skin action. It's obviously going to be a free-to-play game. I actually saw some cool data analytics on how popular free-to-play games are compared to their paid game counterparts, and how the volume in revenue is actually comes from skins and things like that. All these additions that come with free-to-play games. But so that's essentially how the Lightnite IO is going to work. It's going to be a battle royale game. You're going to be able to probably compete to win Bitcoin. So the way this will probably work is you give a certain amount of Bitcoin to enter, just like you would on like an Apex Legends when you have those tokens. And then as you kill somebody or as you win the game, you get Bitcoin back after that. So that's going to be interesting. There's obviously going to be the ability to have skins as well. We saw like a hot dog guy get shot in the back there. So you're going to be able to buy skins and have this unique factor to it through the Lightning Network. So that's going to be awesome.
What's interesting about it also, I read that they're gonna have like basically two modes. They're gonna have one that's like with Bitcoin and one that's without any crypto. So because they don't want to, they want to attract the user base that, let's say, doesn't want to participate maybe or wouldn't want to participate in it yet, or doesn't know anything about crypto, but they like the game, so they have basically two modes that you can do, like either want to play with crypto or without.
Can you imagine if you were like a top player and you had no idea, like you got like 17 Bitcoin? You're like, oh, I didn't even know this shit's worth $1 million. What?
Yeah, dude.
It'll be interesting to see how they incorporate, because it says it's going to be on mobile as well. So you can't really mix mobile with desktop gamers, because there's more ability when you're on desktop to kind of interface with the actual game, and then you just have better play. So it'll be interesting to see how they differentiate between mobile and desktop. But that should be fun, man. Honestly, I was telling Dimitri this the other day, because he was asking about Gods Unchained, which is that card game on the Ethereum network. He was asking about the interface, the design, all this stuff, like how it runs essentially, and I told him it's pretty bad. It's not great compared to like Hearthstone and some others, but it was the first one that I could ever like rate, because frankly the rest of the blockchain games I wouldn't even bother rating. So even though it wouldn't have got a good rating, Gods Unchained could at least be rated. And the same thing with this game. Like if it looks like what it's going to be, we're kind of on the precipice here of having games that blockchain games that work, cryptocurrency games that work.
I've never been like a big mobile game guy, so I'm excited for if this game is going to be on mobile. I'm excited to have something that I can just hop on whenever. If I can earn some Bitcoin, man, if I can stack some sats. I'm
You never played Snake on the phone?
No, dude. What is this? 1994?
No, but I'm still like, you said you never played like mobile games.
No.
Dude, that was the first mobile game. When it was like 06. You got your first like Razor phone, and you're playing Snake on it.
Oh yeah, everybody knew what you were doing. Yeah,
Truth.
For sure. Well, speaking of Gods Unchained, it's not all bad. They've kind of blown up a little bit. They were on Yahoo Finance a few days ago, talking about how all this drama, with the NBA and it's I shouldn't even call it drama, because it's a big deal. Kind of this Hong Kong unrest and PR surrounding China and censorship, and obviously you have like LeBron James and some other athletes who are kind of going pro China. Well, Gods Unchained, unlike Hearthstone, its main competitor, has gone pro Hong Kong. So we talked about this a little bit last week on the podcast. I guess essentially what happened was somebody won a Hearthstone tournament, but then came out and said they were pro Hong Kong, and Blizzard and Hearthstone banned them from the game and didn't pay out the $10,000 that this tournament winner was owed. So Gods Unchained, smartly basically took this as an opportunity for PR and morals and things like this, and basically said that they would not be banning anybody who was pro Hong Kong, and went so far as to say that they would give the guy who won the tournament $10,000 if he came over and tried out Gods Unchained, and they'd run tournaments with him, and it was really cool. Well, evidently their user numbers are growing. They've something like tripled since a lot of this stuff has gone down, which like I think their daily users were like 241, and now they're like 660 or 700. So we're not going from like 1 million to 3 million here, but still to triple your user numbers, that's good. So they're growing steadily. They're getting some kind of mainstream media interest. So some interesting stuff there from Gods Unchained on ETH. Another kind of ETH related news piece here, and Q, you'll like this. It's kind of non-fungible token NFT type stuff from the Sacramento Kings, the NBA team. They are going to be using Ethereum to give away 100 different Kings branded collectibles. So these will be physical collectibles that they'll have available, I'm guessing, in the stadium or around Sacramento via these scavenger hunts. So they've got 100 spread out over the entire NBA season. And if you find one, essentially it has an NFC chip in it that corresponds to a token, a unique token on the Ethereum blockchain. And that unique token will depending on kind of how lucky you are, essentially, offer you VIP experiences at the Kings, courtside seats, all this stuff. So pretty cool, man. I mean, overall, like I was talking about this a few podcasts ago. I mean, ETH seems very primed to me to do very well here. You know, it was just deemed a commodity by the CFTC, you know, which is essentially going to allow it to get to, you know, more that Bitcoin level when it comes to the publicly available products, you know, financial products that are available for institutional investors. Right now, the only thing is like that kind of scammy Grayscale Ethereum trust that's out there. So legit. Yeah, I mean, like I think the first ETH they offered, it was like 0.1 ETH. They were selling for like $3,600, and it's like an auction process. So, you know, like if nobody buys it at that price, it goes down and down and down. And anyway, ETH's doing some cool things. So interesting news there.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that all of this stuff is happening on the Ethereum blockchain. Like these are all things that could happen on other blockchains. It's not like DeFi in the sense that you need that level of security. Like it's an NFT. Like the Dodgers did this. So regionally, it's important to understand too that the Dodgers did it and the Kings. So you're talking about California. Maybe there's something going on there where you just have more people maybe that are venturing out from that Silicon Valley area where it can touch all these programs. But to me, it's like 40,000 digital bobbleheads at a Dodgers game. That seems like it would make more sense to be doing on something like EOS or TRON, where you don't have like the transaction. And I don't know what exactly went into that 40,000 digital bobbleheads. But in order to give out one digital bobblehead to one wallet at a 40,000 person scale, it's like, that seems a little ridiculous and not efficient in my mind. But like we've been saying a long time, and like you just said now, it's like Ethereum has this developer lead. It has a user base. So it's pushing ahead as frankly, one of the favorites.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the thing to look into would be the grants that are available in California for this kind of stuff.
Do you think
it might
that's
be
it?
Often when you're like, I wonder why they're doing this, then you know, check the bottom line and you'll see it. But I'm speaking of EOS, an interesting biometric thing was launched. Q.
Yeah, it's basically a biometric authentication. So just like you have your two-factor authentication on your phone when you have to like do transactions, and you use that authentication to even like log into things like Binance or something like that. There's a video that came out. This is from EOSCafeBlock. That was on their Twitter that basically showed a interface of their authenticator working on iOS's secure enclave. So I'll show the video now. But basically they have obviously this third-party application. You log in. He's trying to send EOS, and in order to do so, so he has the transfer EOS up here now. He's typing in the address there, the EOS address, and in order to send that, it uses his Face ID on his secure enclave on his iOS. So a big move, for the security on an EOS blockchain, at least from a user's perspective. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool feature. You know, I mean, the way it works, dude, if you can make it like so easily accessible and smooth, you know, that's great. I think it's overall great for EOS.
Yeah. I mean, biometric stuff is certainly the future. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen it with other crypto projects yet, because it's, you know, I think a lot of that stuff is pretty publicly available. You know, it should be, you can input it pretty easily. As far as I know, it's just kind of the work to get it there. So yeah, shout out EOSCafeBlock for getting that done. You know, if they can scale that and get users to use it, that's a huge selling point for EOS over other protocols.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the ease of use and the interface of actually people understanding that the Face ID is what's allowing it to be sent is definitely a good positive there. So EOS has a ton of good, their developer community is actually really strong, man. Like the team out from Scatter is really great. They're one of the main reasons I interact with EOS over any other protocol, to be honest. But the developer community there is great, so shout out them.
Yeah, definitely. Liquid Apps, you know, Pete over there. Shout out those guys as always.
For sure.
Yeah,
so we got EOS Nights. This actually broke today, and then the guy that we actually are having on the podcast dropped a story as well, or at least a link to the story, which kind of got my attention. But EOS Nights, and it's not. I don't know exactly if they're leaving EOS for Tron. They might just be, transitioning and having it on both protocols. But the story is EOS Knights leaves for Tron, and that is a strong dApp, and it has been for a long time on EOS. Basically, you could it's kind of one of those mobile RPG games where you kind of have a character and you can battle and buy all these things and for the character and level up and things like that you would see in any MMORPG. Had 7,000 users daily at one point, I think in early 2019. It was in March. And now I think it's hovering around 2,000 users daily. So to see that, platform go from from EOS to Tron is a big coup for Tron, if in fact they are completely leaving EOS and moving to Tron.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how EOS has been actually on the receiving end, just like the article kind of describes it, where they had usually dApps migrate to EOS, rather than leave EOS to another protocol. But also the article describes the reason of why they're concerned about EOS and why they're making the move is because they're concerned about the governance right now with the BPs and how exchanges saturate the 21 block producers and all of those things. So it's kind of, I guess maybe they're throwing the towel, kind of saying hey, all right, this stuff is not changing, and even though they're working on it, but listen, we can go to Tron and something, get set up there, and they'll help us with promotions and so on. So
right. Yeah, and I think that last part is super key too. I mean, we've heard from other projects that I guess kind of some of the ways that EOS is launched, in the sense that they kind of just tried to go out and throw it out there, and whoever kind of runs with it. There's historically been some issues with Block One working with projects at a detailed level, right? Which was always kind of the concern around the SEC and the raise and everything. So it's, we've heard of this before, but like I said, I bet 50% or more of this is that Justin Sun and Tron saw the opportunity, hey, here was a project with all these users. If we can go and kind of, help them out, right? Get them some funding, then they'll come over to us. And I mean, we see that on a weekly basis, right? There are a lot of dApps out there, in EOS Knights, who have had some, inkling of success, and they go to these various protocols, but most protocols are not willing to offer them the money, right? Either because they're, they haven't raised enough where they're able to do that, or maybe it's just not their focus right now, or maybe the project isn't, strong enough for them or their backers. So I bet we see more of this, especially as the market recovers a little bit more. And now, 100 IOST is worth, $1, $2, $3, or one Tron is, worth 20 cents or whatever. So, it's not the last we hear of kind of, is EOS dead because one dApp left, or is Tron dead? All that.
And it's fair to point out how they would probably potentially do better if they could live on both platforms. There's no unless there's a token economic issue there where having the token live on both. I don't know exactly on the back end there, but as far as dApp adoption, I think Tron used to be something we laughed at. It was whenever you went to dApp Radar, or whenever you went to dApp.com, which I looked at while you guys were talking, Tron was always they're kind of scammy. This is kind of a joke. And to be honest, there might be some, and Dimitri's always talked about this, where they can fake users and fake wallet and fake transactions. But looking at dApp.com right now, Tron's got, of the top 7, Tron's got 4.
Wow.
4 or 5 as far as users go. So, it might just be the move where they're saying, hey, Tron's got more users than EOS at this time, and maybe in the future. But that's just from an overview perspective. We had a comment actually, ADS Cont 2, AdScan 2. Yeah, AdScan 2. Are you going to talk about Telos? So we got a Telos question. Are we going to talk about Telos today? Anybody want to do some Telos research on air?
You're the EOS guy, but yeah, I haven't. I mean, is it Telos or Talos? Because I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but
tomato.
Tezos.
Or is it Tezos? Don't think it's Tezos. I mean, it's Talos is basically an EOS offshoot, right? In the same way that Ethereum Classic is, right? They kind of forked it and launched. And I remember when that happened, there was a lot of hype around it. But the biggest, I think, problem that people see with it is that it's not backed by billions of dollars from Block One, at least, theoretically. I think Block One has come out and said before, like, hey, we're open to all chains, but that it kind of hurts. It hurts the credibility of all the chains if you're supporting more than one versus just one.
I'm pretty sure Talos or they cap the number of block producer votes that one could receive. So it was more like and I'm really like more into kind of a free market standpoint where you shouldn't like cap the amount of tokens or votes that one block producer would receive. I understand what they're trying to do, right? But then I don't really understand how that can't keep the exchanges from making multiple accounts and multiple wallets where they can be voted in. But I haven't heard much from Telos, to be honest. And I know Warbly's another example of a sister chain that's trying to solve the governance issues. So we'll do some more research there and then come back to you.
Yeah. It's not to say that those are bad or not as of high value. I just think that they don't get the same press, right? Us as an example of not talking about them because they don't necessarily have the same resources. So, I mean, we've seen historically with Ethereum Classic where price has just all of a sudden gone nuts on announcements or partnerships or things like this, but then it kind of fades. So with where we're at in crypto right now, where marketing and hype and PR, and this is still very much a core, if not the core way that the price of tokens moves. It can be kind of tough for these smaller sister chains or fork chains to rock and roll.
I think it's important to understand that the reason why DeFi won't get large on EOS is because of that governance issue where you have this chain that's controlled by a bunch of Chinese. The quote is quote unquote it's always cartel nodes, right? Like you got this group that can essentially control the network, and that's not what it initially was made for. So when you have these sister chains like Warbly or Talos trying to solve that, there is an ability maybe. I mean, it adds centralization, no doubt. Like they're trying to control the governance in certain ways, but then you can have DeFi live on those platforms if it's not controlled by a cartel of 21 nodes. So
I did get through the proposal from Dan Larimer last night. Finally, interesting. I mean, I don't know how they're going to go about adopting any of those because to date exchanges still control the network, right? So if any of them are going to weaken exchanges control, why would the exchanges approve the proposal? So it's like these would be great if you could get them done, but it's kind of like the elephant in the room there as well.
Yeah, and there have been forks talked about in the community, like maybe down the road in 6 months to a year or even sooner than that, maybe there's a fork to happen. Ads can too. If you want to look back, we had a nice conversation in our YouTube channel as well as, on Spotify, iTunes, wherever, with Ash Oro, and he talked a lot about EOS governance. He's from Token Yield, real smart guy. So he's interested in EOS governance too, and I think he's more interested in that free market approach as well. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the sister chains evolve going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. One final, man. I'm really like conspiracy hatting today. It's Monday, baby. Let's do it. Yeah. But an interesting rumor that came my way. So there evidently are rumors that Justin Sun is now a major backer in the new Poloniex crypto exchange spinoff from Circle. So if you didn't hear this news, I think a lot of people kind of in the New York area saw this coming. But as some added context, Circle, and we're gonna get real deep, real Alex Jonesy here, right? So Circle is a big traditional financial company. Jeremy Allaire over there has done a great job of building Circle as a way, kind of like a Venmo type to transact cash. And they were one of the first to really support crypto back in the day before.
And Goldman has a huge stake in them too.
Exactly. We're getting
Oh
there.
yeah, sorry.
So Circle, traditional financial company, move into crypto. For a while you could buy Bitcoin through Circle, but because they're based in New York and especially the United States, they've kind of constantly run into issues with regulatory hurdles that they haven't been able to get over, or that have costed too much. And as Deem said, they have some interesting backers too, like Goldman Sachs, massive financial firm on Wall Street, who over the last few years have really tried to become more retail focused, right? So you can see how an investment in a company like Circle could help increase their exposure to retail customers. Now, Circle, as you may know, also helped launch Coinbase's USDC stablecoin, right? So originally, it's USD Circle, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what people like to call it, but it's really, USD Coinbase or USDC. So Circle, kind of has their hands in a lot of different retail pies, which means Goldman has their hands in a lot of retail pies. So they expanded, they went and they basically brought in Poloniex, which for those of you who have been around since 2014, 2015, Poloniex at one point was the largest crypto exchange.
Yeah.
Hands down, biggest, best, but it was really hard to use it consistently in the US. You had to have a VPN and all this. So in the US, it never really had as much traction as you would see like a Coinbase does now. So over time, they lost market share. Circle brought them in. They've been trying to, revive them. Paxos is another stablecoin. They've done something similar with another exchange called ItBit, where the thought is, hey, if we can have a very simple, easy to use, payment gateway between your bank and the USD and your bank to USDC through Circle, where you can send this everywhere. And now you can go and buy Bitcoin on Poloniex and, trade various assets and whatnot. Now, it's like this whole kind of ecosystem, right? You don't have any need to go anywhere else. You just all do it in-house. But Circle, like I said, started running into these regulatory hurdles, especially as more guidance came out from the SEC. They had to remove a lot of different tokens from Poloniex. And I think as of late, Poloniex might have like 6 assets. So Poloniex has really kind of been hurt from this regulatory guidance. And now, as of late, Circle has basically said that they are going to spin out Poloniex. They're going to get rid of them under the Circle brand through $100 million multi-year fundraiser and plan that will not focus on serving U.S. customers, but will focus on bringing back Poloniex to its kind of global its global dominance as a crypto exchange.
When rebrand?
Yeah, when rebrand to TRON next, right? Because that's the rumor is that Justin Sun, through an unnamed Chinese company, as you'll see in the article on CoinDesk, is a major backer, right? So breaking, reported here live first, confirmed.
Yeah. We got to the bottom.
Yeah, if this comes out in 4 months, we will be the first to have reported it. So we can ask Ryan, or we can ask the guy. We can ask the guy coming on the podcast later this week.
Yeah. So the only thing Justin Sun could have done that would have been more profitable than starting Tron would probably have been starting an exchange. So it makes sense that Justin Sun sees that opportunity. He's like, I need an exchange under my belt. So that's a great. I didn't know where you were going with it, but yeah, I love that. I love the tinfoil hat that you always put on too.
That was a pretty good start.
Thank you.
Did you
story time?
Yeah.
Did you practice it or like?
Did I practice it?
Yeah.
Oh, like 1,000 times.
He's in the mirror in the morning. No. This is Layer1Live today.
Just naked with a tinfoil hat on.
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. That was a image that I'll never get out of my mind ever again. All right. Well,
I'll take the next one.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, guys, if you're looking for leverage, Binance is doing 125x. Man, you can't get that anywhere. Dude, 125x. If you check this out and do the math, you have $100. You can take a position of 12,500.
And get liquidated if it moves a cent.
You get liquidated if it moves 0.8% against you.
0.8 per. Yeah. 0.75%, right?
or some point. Yeah, it was 0.8.
0.8.
Or maybe, I don't know. Wait, whatever. Either way, you get liquidated.
Don't trade on Dima's math.
So,
or money. Don't do it.
So yeah, basically, CZ is flexing, come out, with the 5x leverage, which is unreal. I've talked about like leverage on Dimitri's desk quite a bit and how dangerous it can be, and like, dude, you should not be using, like, we had in FX, we had like 100-to-1 leverage, 50-to-1 leverage was in US was the limit for Forex. But Forex, like, it'll move like 0.5% a day, like, like a single currency pair, like, euro dollar, for example, will move 0.5%, and then you have 50x leverage, but you use really like anywhere between 10 to 20 to kind of capitalize on that small volatility that happens in Forex, right? But here in crypto, like, things move like crazy, right? So you can have like a 15% move in a single day, and it's like, well. And then you have this 125x leverage, like, that's crazy. You
make
know?
insane amount of money.
Or lose lose a lot. But
well, kind of though, because right, like in the article, it talks about if or as Deem said, right, like
$100. Yeah,
$100. I mean, you can take a position if you guess right, and you see a 1.5% move in the direction that you're betting on, you're not running with $100. You're running with the $12,500 worth. I mean, it's just obviously the biggest thing to remember is gambling. Is that this is gambling, right? Like it's there's at any time if you're using 125x leverage, like there's no piece of information that is going to guarantee that it's going to move that way. Because on $50 you're liquidated. $50 move, boom.
You just spin the wheel.
So Dima, I have two questions. One, how much risk does this add to Binance? I know it's super risky from an investor perspective, but how much risk does this add to Binance?
Right. So, so it's a huge question. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because I would forget to talk about it. But that's a second point that's pretty big. Is basically, so when you have such a huge leverage, you're obviously liable to pay out on the winnings, right? And then, when we have, let's say, a market situation where, let's say, everyone is skewed, to one side, and then majority of it is right, then there's going to be, and let's say there's not enough, let's say, short people that are short compared to the long. It's so skewed that it's like 9% long and then 10% short.
And just to summarize that for people, right? So what you're saying is that if 90% of people are long, right, and now that you have 125x leverage, obviously the general position that is long, the amount of money that's long can now be much bigger. If 90% of the people trading that are right, and 10% are wrong, the money that is
the
lost,
math doesn't work out, right? So and obviously that works the other way around, if everybody's short and so on, right? So that adds liability, puts liability on Binance, and that's the reason why, a platform like BitMEX, they have a safety fund just in case, something like that happens. They say, hey, listen, there's the reserve. We have, the funds here just in case of a market condition like that, happens like this. We've already thought this through. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Binance has the Seifu fund, right? So they do have funds to kind of back it up. But, stepping out and offering higher leverage and trying to flex by offering higher leverage than everybody else's also can be a liability, for the exchange. So
the second question that I had, and you can fly through this one, is one of the I've been liquidated on BitMEX. You saw that process happen, and honestly, there are stories out there that aren't untrue about more experienced traders using bots and different things to manipulate the markets, and they can ping the BitMEX markets to kind of see where all of those liquidation prices are set at. So my issue here is is that a BitMEX issue? Is that a across the market issue when you're doing 125x longs? Okay, that might be something that's super interesting, super enticing. But if someone's just going to be able to ping and see where all these stops are at, is that something that you want to get involved in?
So here's the thing. So for the exchanges right now, the way they show your actual like full value leveraged already, right? So you can't really ping and find out, okay, this guy is trading 100x leverage. There's a position with 100x leverage. He just has $100. So for the public, they can actually just see the full notional value of the trade that's already leveraged. So you can't really know if the guy is like, can be squeezed or not, right? But from the exchange side, that's where the information is. And I've talked about this on the article that I wrote about the exchanges. Is like, well, if they can see those that are highly leveraged, they can use their own internal bots maybe to push the prices around a little bit to trigger those liquidations and bank the money.
Dude, I love this. We are full on tinfoil hat. Hardcore.
Well, I know this from FX.
They're doing it
because that happens in Forex, right? That was a huge thing about it.
If it's possible and it generates additional revenue, guaranteed it's happening for within crypto, outside of crypto, for sure. I mean, the attractiveness of the 125x leverage is that if you have $1,000 that you don't care whether you keep it or lose it, right? And you take $100 bets at 125x leverage, and you can catch one where you're able to catch, a 7 or 8 or 9% move one way or the other. That's going to well pay off the $900 that you lost.
Yeah, but then when do you stop? Because the thing is, it's like once it goes in your direction, that's when greed starts kicking in, and you just ride it right until it just comes back and destroys you. Or there's so many mental things that happen when you're trading like that. You could literally scalp with that. Maybe just look for a very small fluctuations. Trade on a 5-minute chart that traders would do. But
I mean, and there's got to be some wild things happening behind the scenes too, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about Poloniex and Coinbase, but globally, kind of the two leaders for crypto exchanges right now are Binance and Huobi. Right. They've gone back and forth for a couple months now in total volume. They're 1 and 2, kind of switching back and forth. They both obviously have exchange tokens. You've got BNB, and then you've got HT Huobi token, both of whom have done very well in the previous months. If you bought both at the beginning of the year, you'd be up many multiples at this point.
Which you can't say for other altcoins.
Oh, no, definitely not. So they're also doing token burns, right? So that was a big announcement from Binance, where basically they said that based on their profits this month, which would have been like 360 million, or this quarter.
This past the Q3, that was at 189 mil.
189 mil.
Yeah.
Okay. So they burned a little over 2 million BNB, which comes out to something like $36 million, right? That they're literally just destroying, evaporated into thin air. And the reason they do this is because what it does is it allows them to then legitimize the process of them going out and buying BNB on the open market. Whether they're buying that full amount of BNB is hard to say, but supposedly Binance is going out, they're buying up BNB tokens from the open market, which increases the amount of buy pressure, which if you don't have as much sell pressure, will push the token price up. It's kind of a good marketing pitch that you can do on a quarterly basis to say like, hey, I know the price is down, but we got you guys, like we're buying more, right? IOST has done this. Projects do it all over. Well, now it's basically coming out that this is starting to kind of like heat up, right? The exchanges are starting to go at each other a little bit, where Binance said we burned so and so many tokens. Well, Huobi came out and burned just a bit more.
Yeah.
Huobi offers a certain amount of leverage. Well, Binance came out and now they offer 125x leverage. So it's like,
so it's going to be 500x.
It's kind of this, it's this interesting kind of exchange war for the top dog here.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how that competition transfers over to both of their launch pads, because they obviously, that's been a huge thing for exchanges. It drives interest into the exchanges. It drives interest into the tokens on their exchanges. Pretty much everything. If you can launch a good product, a good and it sees success on the open market, then that's gonna be interesting. What were Huobi's launch pad tokens?
Don't ask.
No, you don't know.
They had
They had LOL. Oh wait, no, LOL did I know.
LOL was a Huobi Prime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm not sure if their launch pads are only through Huobi Prime.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Huobi Prime is the launch pad.
Yeah. So Emoji was one.
Yeah.
That did really well. Thundercore, the one I got in, did not do very well at all. I'm down like 82%. I think the IEO price was like 4 cents or 4.5 cents, and it's at like 0.6 of a cent. So shout out Huobi IEOs. Thanks, guys. I got dumped on hard.
We see how Mike feels about that. Yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look into that Huobi Prime because other than those two, I'd like to know what other projects launched on Huobi Prime.
I feel like Emoji was like the 6th or 7th.
Yeah.
They haven't been as pushed out there as Binance, at least for us, right? I feel like Binance's IEOs are marketed a bit more in the US. Binance did just announce Kava token. I haven't looked into it at all, but that's an IEO that essentially they're going to be snapshotting the Binance coin wallets, and that's essentially how you get in. But we haven't seen IEOs really from them recently. So this is
there's a great article I saw somewhere. Maybe I can find it later on. But basically it outlines all the like IEOs that happen on these different platforms, like including Huobi, Binance, and it shows how they did. Basically, what's the ROI and so on, where's the price, and it was a pretty good, well put together like article where you can see all of them easily.
I feel like that was on the block, maybe.
Right? Yeah, you've seen it somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
some article there. They took like the top 10, and a lot of them got wrecked.
If somebody can get us in touch with the guys from the block, I've been trying to contact those guys for like the past 2 weeks. I love the work that they do, man. Their articles are really good. Their insights are awesome. They said they were gonna do some type of community fundraising though, which might spell like, I know they had some initial funding. Where did they get that initial investment from?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the block does well. The problem I have with the block is that a lot of times they get like too subjective, So like, I feel like they market themselves as like the best crypto news site, but really they're more of like an editorial.
They are. Yep. That's fair.
Site. So a lot of people originally, they come out with something that was very like biased, say against EOS or say against ETH or whatever. If you had like amazing things happening in DeFi, they would find like the one negative one to point out, and people are like, well, what the hell? And then I think now that people kind of realize like, oh, hey, like it's more of an editorial thing. They still do have news, but they've kind of had their ups and downs. Not to say it wouldn't be great to have them on the podcast, but I think the founder probably put some money in, and the way that they, generate cash is like any other site, right? They sell ads, and then they sell, a subscription type service to users. So, I mean, like Masari is another one out there, right? Like they're data focused on a lot of altcoins mostly, and they try to run ads and subscription service, but it's tough sledding for sure.
It's a waiting game, You're banking on more users coming into the space via new non-crypto users that are happening right now. So it's like anything else that's media related in crypto right now. But so let's move on to IOST, because we spent a ton of time talking about BNB, talking about a lot of these other protocols. So let's finish up with IOST. One thing that's not on the list though that I want to talk about, this initial results for the Q3 contribution rankings. I want to know what you guys think about these rankings, because that's always a hot topic. It's a hot topic in the IOST community. Some people like it, some people don't. They don't like where they're placed. They do like where they're placed. Was there any that kind of you thought maybe should have gotten tier 1, or maybe some tier 1s that you thought should have got tier 2s without putting you on trial here?
Well, I do want to talk about Tezos as well. They had a big upgrade happen. So let's hit that after IOST too before we go.
For sure.
I didn't have any issue with it, not just because we were tier 1. That's I thought it was fine. I mean, there's always, right, anytime you've got, I think they had like 103 people in the contribution rewards. That's a lot of stuff to filter through. I mean, I'm sure tier 4 and tier 5 are a little bit easier because there's really just not much action happening from those nodes at all. One thing I do know, and to shill ourselves and shill the Sutler Ventures know the business behind Layer1 podcast.
Shameless.
Always be sure.
Is that we are one of 3 nodes on IOST that have always gotten tier 1. every quarter since the jump, since the network launched in the first quarter of this year, it's us, it's Metnix, and it's Liobi, or Inside IOST as it's now called, I think. So we're hanging on. We're undefeated still. Obviously, we're talking about IOST on this podcast nonstop. Just had Lawrence on. If you don't know what IOST is, if you're just hearing about it, the podcast we had last week with Lawrence, who's the head of business development for IOST, is a great place to start. They got some good documentation on their website at iost.io as well. So yeah, I don't have any issues with it, but
yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I'm not gonna say who should have gotten better, because that's just gonna I want to dig my own grave here.
No.
But I think overall they did a great job. They just I think they're more strict now with the way they grade things now, which is good, because I think maybe in the past they were more lenient with it, but now they're actually seeing who's providing the value, users, and really going out there and spreading the word about it. So I think overall, like, grading, it's pretty legit now. So all of those guys are in tier 1, like Metnix, dude, this guy's killing it. Like, like he's really like doing great for things for IOST. So, and inside IOST as well, dude, they had the wallet, on their website that they developed as well. So like, this real stuff is being made. These guys really deserve it. So
Block Devs Asia is another one.
Yeah.
They've been killing it. They just came out with some education. I mean, a lot of the tier 2s as well, BitBoy, a handful of others there.
Stash is there. Yep.
Stash, Crypto Stash.
Yep.
I mean, these guys have solid followings. It's just the end of every quarter. There's always a lot of drama, because basically these contribution rewards with IOST, they're not block production rewards like you would see on traditional delegated proof of stake networks. They have everything to do with the things that the node is doing online or offline to help spread awareness for IOST. So it's very hard to quantify. It's very hard to qualify as well between the tiers, but obviously tier 1, you're going to get more rewards, which means those who voted for that node are going to get more rewards. And I think that's probably why Lawrence talked a little bit about how the IOST Global Alliance and ICAC and maybe some others can kind of come together here in the coming months or whatever to try to decentralize the process a little bit more, make it a bit more transparent, obviously take some of the workload off of the IOST team, who I think this quarter, the time that they had to go through the contribution, submission forms, essentially the applications for the tiers lined up with Golden Week and kind of in, the country holiday in China. So it's, it's not easy.
Yeah. A couple storylines along with that contribution report. I think they got the message that on block shouldn't have been as high, because that's on block and Burmy are not as high on the list as they were last time. I don't know if Burmy was on the last one, but certainly on block I think was like tier 2 or something like that, and it was associated with the IOST team. So I think they got the news there, and that ended up being in the tier 5 category. One of the other things I think was interesting here. Hold on, I had it. I'd like to see Block Arcade a little bit higher next year, but this is what I was going to say. Metnix actually put out a transparency document, through his Medium, and kind of said what they did. And I think every tier 1 node should do that. And I think we should actually put something out this week. We'll push something this week from Settler Ventures. But I think especially for the nodes that we don't know, it'd be great to know, hey, you're in tier 1. What'd you do? Because we obviously know inside IOST, we know Metnix, DAppBirds is fairly known. They put out these dApps on the IOST network, but it'd be great to see from all the tier 1 nodes, hey, what did you do? So that'll be interesting.
It's interesting too. Like, I would imagine behind the scenes, Lawrence and the IOST team, right, are obviously the staking setup that IOST has, where you can earn anywhere from 12 up to like 30-35% a year on your staked votes. If you include the contribution rewards, right, that selling point is huge when you go to companies like JustCo, right, in Asia, where they're this massive WeWork type company. Hey, we're this cryptocurrency project. We want to partner with you guys. What kind of ammo do we have when we go into this meeting? So it's one where, okay, well, how do we get some of these tokens to JustCo if they're not running a node, or if they just started running a node? how can we kind of get them a quick jump, right? How can we show our love for the partnership and its tier one? So
got it.
I think that's part of the reason we see most nodes flip-flopping between tiers as well, right? Like, did you say Burmy was tier 1 or tier 2?
I know
last time?
OnBlock was last time. I don't know about Burmy, but I know OnBlock was like tier 2 or tier 1 last time. But yeah,
Right.
There's fluctuations for sure.
Yeah, so like OnBlock launched last quarter. They had a lot of stuff going on. They were giving away a lot of tokens, so it makes sense that they would be in a tier 2, whereas this quarter maybe they're just kind of building, haven't really seen kind of things come to fruition yet. And thus they're a little bit lower.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's pretty much it from IOST. I think the only other thing, IOST Play didn't even submit a report, which is interesting. Like, you have some people that you thought were engaged in this ecosystem. I think there was like a buyout or something, a transition of teams, and maybe maybe that was the reason for it. But they didn't even submit an application. But that'll be interesting to see going forward, especially as Binance comes into the play, as we've heard, kind of through some birdies here or there, and it's kind of it's the worst kept secret in IOST that Binance will eventually allow staking. If they're going to do it on TRON, they're eventually going to do it, on these other protocols. So once they start to eat up those other rewards, contribution rewards will only be more important. So
yeah,
win Binance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay up to date, you can always follow us, settlerventures.com. You've got our blog there, most recent blog we put out. We did an interview with Lawrence, separate to the one on the podcast here, talking about some things that we think IOST can improve upon. One of the things that I've been most excited about with IOST from mainnet until now is how not just the ecosystem has grown, but I think IOST is really preparing itself to function in more of a decentralized setup. So we talk a little bit about some things that could happen there to help move that forward, and are obviously putting stuff out on a consistent basis. So stay tuned on all things IOST. Contribution rewards for Q3 should be going out soon. I think the dispute period ends in 2 days on the 23rd. So
boom.
Yeah. Final thing I will leave you guys with is some news from Tezos. So if you don't know what Tezos is, it's another Ethereum competitor, raised a ton of money, a handful, maybe back in 2017, I think they raised like $300 million or something.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. 9 figures, that'll do. Where basically their blockchain is focused on solving the problems of governance that you see with a lot of other blockchains. It's self-amending, which means that with a certain percentage of votes from participants in the network, which is based on proof of stake, you can make changes to the network without having to fork the network. So they had a lot of issues to jump, at the jump, at probably one of the worst starts, very similar to like ETH with the DAO hack that they had back in the day, but have come out of the gate now since mainnet launch and done very well. So they initially had one upgrade that went through kind of this self-amendment process that, evidently was just kind of, fixing some small things, right? Maybe kind of like an upgrade that you would see after a major release, right? So a smaller upgrade after the mainnet launch, but because it was the first, was a huge deal. Kind of upgraded some constants. Essentially, it was called Athens, and really that first amendment proved that yes, Tezos can agree on things. We all believe in this and whatnot. This is the second one. It's called Babylon, where it expands. It's basically the as it says here, it's the first major upgrade of the network. Enhances the consensus algorithm, expands smart contract functionality, improves the actual governance mechanism that is used to make these amendments, and is another, basic accomplishment for Tezos. It came from Cryptium Labs, which is a major, network participant, as well as Nomadic Labs. That they've developed a lot of this. So it's a big win for Tezos for sure. There's a lot of interest in Tezos on the institutional level, I think. I think it's probably up there with an ETH and an EOS. from an institutional standpoint, because they did raise so much money and they've done so many things like on the STO front, or bringing in big crypto backers like Polychain Capital and Olaf over there from the jump. So
are there user-facing applications on Tezos?
I'm not sure. One of the things that Tezos kind of didn't launch with was a lot of the same smart contract functionality that you would see on ETH or EOS or IOST, right? Their focus admittedly has not been on gaming or gambling. Part of that is because that functionality was not there. I think that was probably one of the biggest issues that they addressed, from the start. Mm-hmm. They had some network participants who did a really good job of developing that very quickly. And it sounds like that this upgrade or this update included some additional enhancements there. So, it primarily uses OCaml, I believe, just in general for Tezos, which is, it's not like a JavaScript in that it's widely used, but it is widely used for, financial development, financial engineering, from a software development standpoint. So you can see even at the base level with something like OCaml, where their focus is. They're worried about things like real estate STOs on Tezos and art on Tezos and things like this versus the next CryptoKitties. At least that's what it seems from my angle.
Yeah, it seems like, I completely agree with that. I think DeFi is like where they're kind of throwing their hat in the ring. But it'd be interesting to see like the breakdown of nodes on Tezos, and I'm sure we could get that information as far as like geographically, because you kind of have like a Western bias here.
I've been trying to actually find that right now as we're talking. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, because like I remember from last time seen it, it's basically the one of the top like bakers were like the VCs and funds.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, and then you compare that to, let's say, like exchanges that saturate like a certain network, right? So where exchanges really kind of just hold that capital, not do anything, right, with it in terms of like contributing to the network, right? They're just reaping the kind of the rewards from it. But when you have these like funds and VCs that actually, push the agenda for that project, let's say help them out with the talent that they have on their hands and the network that they have on their hands, and actually like, work with the project because they see the value in it and so on. They're not just parking cash there just to get rewards. So yeah, I think that's a huge difference. Yeah.
It just with these DAOs, it just reminds me, and it would be classified as a DAO, correct?
Tezos or their funds or
Tezos, or is it pushed by the founder? Like when you have a proposal that's pushed forward.
So it's not really I guess you could kind of say it's a DAO. DAO being just decentralized autonomous organization, right? The problem is that the way you define decentralization is so bastardized at this point that it's hard. But I would say the easiest way to define Tezos in a sentence is that it's one of the leading new proof of stake networks out there, basically. It's up there. It's top 20 market cap. They've proven the self-amendment model. Their backers, as Dima said, are some of the top VCs in the world who, unlike the exchanges, are actually putting their own money behind, say, development organizations that will go and build on Tezos. So they've got a lot of things going for them. It's one of the reasons we track them. We'll probably be running a Tezos node in the future. One of the goals of Sutler Ventures, the team behind Layer1, obviously sitting in front of you, us right here, but is to cover these networks that we're going to be actively involved in, right? Like Tezos is one that we're going to be launching a node on shortly, or a validator shortly. So that'll be interesting. But the point being that like they got 84% of the vote in favor, and that's not to say that governance can't get passed on something like EOS, but where you have people complaining about an Eastern cartel, on EOS, where on Tezos, and that's why I would love the breakdown of where their nodes are located. I guarantee that most of it's Western based, and just like view that from an Eastern perspective. It's like, okay, no DeFi is going to happen on Tezos that's not American based, because you have
an American cartel. It's funny.
Yeah.
Like I could almost see it happen like flip flopped, where you have kind of a Western base over here, and where an Eastern user or an Eastern financial institution wouldn't be using that.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with what you're saying. I think it's important too to understand it. It has nothing to do with the actual quantity of the nodes in the network and where they're based, but the stake that they have, right? The amount that they have. Because Polychain, by and far, number one, right? They're the biggest. They're going to get into the most, block production slots, which is going to further reinforce that. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, it may be the case in the East where you've got a lot of people who look at Tezos and they're like, you know what, this would be really cool, but we're never going to be able to get the certain amendments, or proposals done because they, what we want to do conflicts with what the leaders or those with the larger stakes in Tezos want done. And that you're right. I mean, that is a really, kind of standout problem with proof of stake is that if you can get in early like a VC or you can get some massive quantity like an exchange, you are going to have more benefit than the everyday user who only has a few thousand tokens or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point, to be honest. But we had a comment from Max Stapp. He says, "What's up, guys? Loving the Layer 1 podcast. What are your thoughts on the new EOS governance proposals?" So, and while you were talking there, I was kind of trying to pull up the governance proposals from last time, and I guess you kind of have to be specific. I think there were multiple proposals put out. So, Dan put out his own proposal, which most of the community, takes, really enjoys and kind of pushes forward with, where I think you had EOS New York come out with their own proposal. So I'm going to try to look up here the exact details, but I remember specifically the voter proposal where the votes will count less at the more that you vote.
Right.
As opposed to on a multiple, which makes sense when you have the control of the network from these large exchanges with a ton of votes. So I'm gonna look this up real quick, and you guys can talk on it.
We were talking a little bit earlier in the podcast, and thanks for the question, Max. Basically, the biggest issue that I see with it is that inherently, if you're trying to dissolve the governance issues through a governance proposal that has to be proposed and then ratified, how are you going to do that if those who you are trying to weaken are the ones that have to ratify that proposal? Right. So great ideas. I finally got to the one from Dan last night. I think it's very succinct. It makes a ton of sense. Basically he's saying that you would have like these bonded pools, right, where 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2, 5, and 10 years. I think were the 6 different bonded, pools you would pay out various interest rates. And then,
based on the percentage that you were in that. So when you have the 10-year, not many people are going to stake their tokens for 10 years. So you're getting more of that percentage. So
exactly. Yeah. So, and then you would be able to take out like a certain percentage every, however long, every week or whatever, from those bonded pools. And kind of that was the way to help boost the vote that longer term people have, because like you said, if not many people are in the 10-year pool, but you are, now you're 10,000 EOS or whatever, have much more of a say than, if it wasn't. I think I like the one vote equals one vote kind of thing where, if you, each EOS token equals one vote. So if you want to spread that EOS token out across 10 different block producers, you're now going to have 1/10 of an EOS on every single one. And like I said at the jump, right? Like these are great ideas, but how do we move forward? How do we get this ratified?
Sounds great on paper.
Yeah. So Max, I had 2 things. You sat down with Brock Pierce. That looked like a great interview. I didn't get to the whole interview, but I need to sit down after this episode. I want to know what you thought about that, and also if you want to come on and talk about EOS governance with us, that would be a great combo interview there, combo podcast. So Max, if you want to come on to the Layer 1, man, let us know. That'd be great, and we can talk about this together as opposed to talking through text and then kind of responding. So that would be great to have you on.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out his YouTube and all of his channels. Just Max Dapp, DAPP. You know, shout out Max for all the quality content he's putting out there, and a nice kind of end to the podcast here. Shout out to everybody who liked, commented, subscribed. We love you for that. Like we said at the beginning and towards the middle of the podcast, got a really awesome interview coming up this week with somebody from the TRON network who we're going to ask about this Poloniex rumor. You know, did Justin Sun it? Was he a major backer of the new Poloniex spinoff as the rumors are swirling around? And we definitely need to get. I don't know about you, Q, but me and Deem have been putting up some highlights on the old PC and Xbox that we need to we might need to throw out here and get some love for.
Yeah, just really quick, I'm gonna let you finish. But before the Tron interview, there's tomorrow.
Yeah, come on, Mike.
We're dropping Dimitri's desk, hot out of the bakery. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this live. So
Nice.
Yeah. So tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm going live on Dimitri's desk. It's the first time you guys can interact with me. Yeah. Where is he going? I don't know. So you guys can ask questions, you know, and basically I'll tell you what I see on the charts, on the tokens, whichever ones you want to see. So
we are going live. Dimitri's just live.
Yeah, we're doing it live. We're gonna see how it goes, you know. But I'm excited, you know, want to provide more value so you guys can ask all these questions.
Q, I will bet you $5 it doesn't start at 3 p.m. Starts at like 3:40.
Let's use that predict marketplace. We'll throw some
right. 3 p.m. Moscow time.
Yeah, makes sense. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, you know, basically, if you are out there trading on more of a short-term basis, obviously none of it is an investment advice. But you know, you've got questions now you can ask live. You know, I'm not. Are you going to chart like things live?
Mm-hmm.
So like somebody
absolutely.
could come on and be like, you know, what's up with Tezos or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Price action is price action. It
Nice.
really doesn't matter much. As long as it's a pretty liquid coin, you know, don't throw at me like, you know, something that's like a number 1,000 in the coin market cap. It's like literally like a pump and dump, you know, like,
well, this coin is not traded on any exchanges.
The high is here, the low is here, and we're at the bottom, you know, so the chart doesn't go any lower, you know.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're coming to you guys with the live content on YouTube, and then we'll have that podcast that we release every Wednesday or Thursday. At this point, we're interviewing on Tuesday or Wednesday and then trying to get the podcast out as soon as possible. But those live on now. We're live on Spotify. We're live on Stitcher. Not live, but you know what I mean. We've been having some issues with iTunes. If you can't find us on iTunes, continue to watch us here. And then we've been having some issues there trying to actually like find our podcast. But if you've already subscribed, there's no issues, and we're pushing it there. So we appreciate all the support, man. You guys have been awesome so far, and let's keep doing this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. I love it. I'm late to a phone call meeting here, so this has been an amazing podcast, man. It's probably our longest yet. How
people are like,
what are we at?
Yeah,
people are like, when are they gonna finish, man?
All right. On that note, I think we ran like 1 hour and 20 minutes or something like that. So enjoy this, and then we'll talk to you guys soon.
Get back to work out there. Stop slacking.
Turn it off.
Yeah, get out of here.
Later, guys.
Later.